We've been in a series called the Money Series, and it really is not just talking about your cash. It's a series talking about our hearts, because money reveals the heart. And so today, the title of our sermon is Growth versus Greed. And this was really for me, because I know it's a weird thing for an Asian to say, but I feel like my eyes are bigger than my stomach. Because I always am going after growth, and I feel like I can take on so much, and I start all kinds of things, and yet when does it become too much? When does it become greed? And so that's the title, and we're going to tackle that in today's message. The first commandment that God gave humanity comes from Genesis chapter 1, verse 28, and it said that God blessed us. And then he said, be fruitful and multiply. That speaks of growth, by the way. Fill the earth and subdue it, and then have dominion. Our Jewish friends were taught by their rabbis that the earth is like Play-Doh, or creation is like Play-Doh. And God put us on the earth so that we can make, design, and develop stuff out of the resources that he has entrusted to us, that he's put on the earth, so we can beautify things, we can create things. And you know how when God made the earth, it was not a finished product, but more so it was like Play-Doh. So therefore, chocolate chip cookies are not growing from trees, yet all the ingredients are here, the elements are available to make it. Did you notice that lattes don't fall through the waterfall, or with the waterfall, or as a waterfall? No, but all the ingredients and elements are provided for us to put that together. I have not seen cars fall out of the sky, maybe in a tornado, but I've not seen houses just falling from the sky. But all the materials needed to design the one that you would like, the one that you would want, is here on the earth. I've noticed that clothes don't just grow out of the soil, but all the materials do, so that we can, and they're on sheep, so that we can develop the clothes that we would enjoy. So then God blessed humanity, and then he made us in his image, so he imparted this creative potential to us so that we can take the raw materials he's given us and that we can make, design, and develop stuff. I know from a Christian tradition, all the way from the Apostle Paul to St. Augustine, really drove this home, and even to recent times where you've heard it taught that Adam and Eve committed the original sin. And that original sin is supposedly so powerful that it distorted all of us. And not just distorted us, it damned all of us. And I'm not trying to minimize the impact of the original sin from our first parents, but it did not negate this original blessing that God had given to us. And so therefore, we do live in an imperfect world, and yet we're still human beings that are very capable of making, designing, and developing stuff. And now because of original sin, because we are in a fallen state, we sometimes make, develop, and design the wrong stuff that's harmful. And we make, design, and develop things from the wrong motives, from greed and selfish ambition, or from hatred for another person. And yet that innate ability to make, design, and develop is still intact. And therefore we have this God-given potential, and we can experience growth. We can make growth happen. And growth is a good thing. Growth, and there's qualitative growth, and then there's quantitative growth. Let me talk about quantity, or quantitative growth. And that speaks of expanding. So when a 5-year-old child measures himself up against the wall again, and you can find that he grew like 4 inches, that's growth in quantity. It's quantitative growth which can be measured, and he expanded vertically. And usually when you tell him, hey, you grew a lot, he'll take it as a compliment, not as an insult. And I have a relative who was a CEO of a very large company. And every time I see him, which is maybe once a year, he asks me, hey, Daniel, is your church growing? That's always what he asks me. Maybe I should just say it for him, because I know every time I see him, he's going, hey, Daniel, is your church growing? Next time I see him, I'm going to say, hey, Daniel, is your church growing? I'm just kidding. Because he comes from the CEO mindset, he's wondering, are there more people in chairs? Is your reach and influence expanding? But growth doesn't just speak of quantity. There can be growth in quality as well. And when something is growing in quality, we call that an upgrade. And so are you going to upgrade your phone? That means you're getting a phone that has better quality. That doesn't mean you got two phones. How many of you would like to upgrade your phone? Anybody? Or how about when you say that Tom just upgraded his car? He went from a Honda to a Lexus. Who here is against upgrading their car? Or, when you hear about somebody upgrading their house, that means they moved into a bigger house, maybe in a more prestigious, coveted area. And who doesn't want an upgrade? Upgrade speaks of progress. It says that you're moving forward, not backwards. Upgrade speaks of improvement. Self-improvement is a popular genre in bookstores. If your coach tells you you're really improving, isn't that a compliment? Doesn't that feel good? If your doctor tells you, I'm noticing that you're really improving, man, that'll make your day. If your spouse tells you you're really improving as a spouse, you've just made it in life. But whatever you do for a living, I'm sure it wouldn't hurt your feelings to know that you're getting a little bit better at it, that you're ever improving, because we don't want to be digressing. We want to be improving. So can we all agree that growth is not a bad thing? We want to expand, we want to upgrade, we want to improve. Jesus told a parable about money. In fact, most of his parables were about money, but this is the one that we know of as the parable of the talent. So to one servant, he gave approximately $150,000. To the next servant, he gave $60,000. To the last servant, he gave $30,000. I mean, this is not 30,000 cents, $30,000. This is a lot of money that each of them have received from their master, while he's really investing into each of them. And I think you know how the story goes. The servant number one takes the $150K and turns it into $300K. Then servant number two takes the $60K. He does something with it. He develops it. And then it turns into $120K. And servant number three takes the $30K and buries it in the ground, and it just remains $30K. So to the first two servants who took what they were given and grew it, this is what the master says: well done, good and faithful servant. From what Jesus said and how he told this parable, I know three things about growth. It's a good thing. Well done, good, because growth is a good thing. The second thing about growth, according to that parable, is it's the result of faithfulness. That you grew it because you were faithful. Well done, good and faithful servant. And when you continue to read that parable, they were richly rewarded by their master, which is the third thing about growth, is that growth will be rewarded. Now, growth is a good thing. So what happened is that it's the result of faithfulness. So growth isn't always instant. When you see this kid here and you're wondering why he doesn't grow because you're measuring his growth in seconds, that's the problem. You're measuring the growth in seconds. You need to start measuring his growth every month or every 6 months or every year. Then you'll see growth. Like, for example, what if you walk up to your 7-year-old and you say, right now is 11:55 and 36 seconds. Now, right now is 11:55 and 40 seconds. How come I'm not seeing growth? Because it's only been 5 seconds. And you know how they grow is by faithfully eating and sleeping. And growth is not seen in seconds, it's seen in years. That's where you discover the notable growth. And growth is the result of daily habits or faithfulness. So now that servant who took the 30K and just buried it because he did not have a vision for growth. He did not think growth was a good thing. He was not pursuing growth in his life. He didn't expand. He didn't upgrade. He didn't improve upon what he was given. The master tells him, you are a wicked and lazy servant. Perhaps he could have argued with the master, saying, no, master, I am the only one who's not greedy. But no, this isn't about greed. This is about growth. But then this servant, he has the audacity then to point his finger at his master and says, Master, you know why I didn't grow it? Because of you. Because, Master, I knew that you were a harsh man. You're way too demanding. I froze under the pressure. You intimidated me. So therefore, I didn't want to do anything. So he's blaming his master for his lack of activity and production. I want to ask you a question this morning. Who are you blaming for the lack of growth, development, and improvement in your life? Because it's time that we stop blaming and making excuses, and it's time to actually get with it and to passionately pursue growth. Because the people who don't experience growth, upgrade, and improvement, they're the ones who are always coming up with these reasons of why it can't happen versus trying to figure out how to make it happen. I appreciate the scientists that are trying to figure out the vaccine for the coronavirus. And I appreciate what they're doing because they're trying to make it happen. I appreciate them, I think, a little bit more than those who are on the news telling us that this thing's going to kill the entire planet. I'm glad, when Thomas Edison was trying to create the light bulb, did you know he failed 1,000 times? But I'm glad after attempt number 10, he didn't write his paper and say to the world, here's 10 reasons why the light bulb can never be developed. No, he just kept going for it. He was faithful. He was tenacious. And he kept trying to figure out a way to make it work. And now the world benefits from his faithfulness. So I want to ask you a question. Are you giving reasons why or excuses why you can't see growth, upgrade, and improvement in your life? Or are you looking for ways to make it happen? I know that there are some countries that are really progressive, they're really developing, and therefore they are prospering. And it's because their people are motivated and the people have a vision for growth. They all want to go to the next level. Then there are certain countries, when you go and visit them, it looks like you went back in time to 1970. Because they just got stagnant. They're not motivated. There's some churches that you can visit and it feels like you're back to 1991 because they're just so complacent and stagnant. And I find that the more complacent you are, you just fall asleep. And it's funny because those who are complacent, they get so annoyed by those who are always progressing and pushing the envelope. Instead, they should maybe get inspired instead of being annoyed. But they get annoyed, say, I can't keep up with you. You just calm down. You relax. And then those who are always progressing, those who are always going after stuff, get so frustrated with the complacent, saying, well, you're just dead weight. Why aren't you doing anything? I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Enneagram, but the Enneagram is a personality test, and it helps us understand how God wired us differently. And it actually, when you understand the Enneagram, you start learning what your personal pitfalls are, what your strengths and your weaknesses are, and it helps you to understand other people, to give grace to them. Yes, we're all human beings, but I feel like even human beings, we have a different breed. Where just like there are Labradors, there's Cocker Spaniels, they're just different breeds. And even us human beings, God just wired us all a little bit differently. Yet a lot of us, or most of us, or if not all of us, we can have one dominant number here in the Enneagram. And if you don't know what my number is, I am a number 3. So I am the achiever or the performer. So I find a lot of fulfillment in growing things and accomplishing things. And I feel like God works through that. I think I have strengths. And yes, I have my demons. I have my weaknesses. I have my struggles. And I can be an unhealthy 3. I'm learning and trying to figure out how to be a healthy 3. But I am a 3. And I feel like that's the way God made me. I've been that way my whole life. I remember when I was 25 years old, I determined I'm going to publish 5 books before the age of 30. And I did it. And I get fulfillment in achieving and accomplishing. And if I wasn't a number 3, I don't even think Jesus Center would exist. And so, yet for me, I can easily find myself just so desperate for growth that I end up falling into greed, where again, my eyes are too big for my stomach. And I end up just becoming greedy. So for others of you who are these achievers who are always going for stuff, where you're never really satisfied. You're always trying to take things to the next level. When does that become greed? When does your desire for growth become greed? Well, here are 3 ways to know that we have entered into greed territory. Number 1, greed is when the gratitude is gone. The way we're supposed to grow things is from a heart of thanksgiving. Greed and gratitude cannot coexist. So when we're grateful, that's when greed, it can't flourish, it can't fester. So we want to continue to have a heart of gratitude, because when that gratitude is gone, that space will be filled with greed. Now, when Jesus was multiplying the bread and the fish, he takes the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. It was just a boy's lunch. It's not that impressive. And that is what's in his hand. Okay? Now know that as you're reading this, it's just 5 loaves and 2 fish in his hand. Yes, it's going to turn into maybe hundreds of thousands of things to distribute, but right now it's just 5 loaves and 2 fish in his hand. And so looking up to heaven, he gave thanks. What did he give thanks for? Did he give thanks for the 100,000 pieces of bread and the 50,000 pieces of fish? Well, they had 12 baskets left over, so maybe it was more than that. But he wasn't expressing his thanks for the end result. He was expressing his thanks for what was in his hand. I want to encourage us to be grateful for what we already have in our hand. Not what we're hoping will be and not what will one day be, but what is in the present. Because I know for us who are number 3s and us who are always trying to achieve and outperform ourselves, we hate the process and we can't stand the present. We only want the finished product. We only want to cross the finish line. And we only love the destination while despising the journey. And yet, here's what we learn from Jesus. Whatever is in your hand presently, that is what you need to give thanks for, even though it seems insignificant. Even though it's not where you want to be and hope to be, and maybe even will be one day. But give thanks for what is already in your hand. So maybe you drive a beat-up Honda. Give thanks that you have transportation. Give thanks for what you have in your hand. Maybe you live in a shabby one-bedroom apartment, and you would say it's shabby. So I'm not trying to insult you if that's you. Be thankful for what you already have. You know, so that Honda is not the new Lexus, but give thanks for what you have. That one-bedroom apartment is not that 4 or 5 bedroom dream house by the water that you're working towards. But give thanks for what is in your hand. I remember when we first moved to the South Bay, we moved into Jessica Maldonado's one of her extra rooms. I didn't know her personally at the time. She wasn't a member of our church yet. We just had mutual friends, so we lived out of a room because we left a lot of things to start this. And then I remember when we got our first 2-bedroom apartment, and I walked in there, I'm like, this is a mansion. What? An extra room, like kitchen, a little porch. But we need to be grateful for what we presently have. Let's be thankful for where we are at, not just where we are going. Let's be thankful for who we are now and appreciative of who we are now, not just who we are becoming. Because the truth is, for most of us, the temptation is there just to curse that old Honda, to despise that one bedroom, to complain about where we're at, and to reject who we are in the present. And yet, here's the word that we need to have a heart of gratitude now. Be thankful for what is already in your hand. Appreciate the present and love the process, not just the destination. Because again, when the gratitude is gone, that's when greed comes. And for us achievers here, if we're trying to achieve from this heart base of anger, hatred, insecurity, anxiety, then even when we achieve, those heart issues don't resolve themselves. We just become an angry, bitter, insecure achiever. And I think the reason why us achievers are so annoying to the rest of the world is because we're not going after things from a peaceful gratitude. We're going after things from anxiety and from an emptiness. And so I just want to encourage you, wherever you're at, be grateful for what's in your hand. Let's just say that you started a YouTube channel and you have a dream that one day you're going to have like 500,000 subscribers, but now you only have 3. Every day, give God thanks for each of them. Lord, I thank you for subscriber number 1. And Lord, I bless you and praise you for subscriber number 2. And Lord, I say hallelujah for subscriber number 3. Be thankful for what you already have. And then watch it grow. And watch it grow. But we don't want to fall into greed. We want to be people who have a heart of gratitude. Number 2, greed is from comparison. I heard a pastor named Andy Stanley ask his congregation, what would I want if I did not know what everyone else already had? You'll say, I wonder, what is it that I want? And I want it because I know that you have it. And I wouldn't really want it. I wouldn't really care for it if I didn't know that everybody else had it. And he followed that question up with this one. How much money would I have saved if I didn't know what everyone else spent theirs on? Because I was trying to keep up with somebody else. And in this world that we live in, this age that we live in, we know how people are spending their money. We know what they have because they're promoting it, they're blasting it. So greed comes from comparison. Here, look at this picture right here. There's a Chihuahua and there's a Saint Bernard. Comparison leads to competition. But the Chihuahua should never compete with the St. Bernard because they're going to have a different growth rate because they're just a different breed. And I think one of the things that quickly pulls us out of the realm of gratitude is when we're comparing ourselves with others and we're competing with each other. So here's this Chihuahua thinking, I only grew 1 centimeter, and that St. Bernard grew 1 foot. Like, what's wrong with me? I'm eating every day. I'm sleeping every day. What's wrong with me? Nothing. Well done, good and faithful Chihuahua. Well done, good and faithful St. Bernard. Now, if the St. Bernard stayed the size of a Chihuahua, now something is wrong there. But the Chihuahua should never be competing or comparing themselves with the St. Bernard. Just like how there's different kinds of dogs, there's different kind of humans. And let's not get into this trap of comparing ourselves with different breeds. Even when you go back to the parable of the talent, if the second servant who multiplied his 60,000 into 120,000 is saying, oh, I'm not significant because I didn't turn it into 300,000. He turned it into 300,000. But I only got to 160,000. But remember, the master said, well done, good and faithful servant. And so, the St. Bernard is more prominent than the Chihuahua. But the St. Bernard is not more significant than the Chihuahua. And just because somebody is more prominent doesn't mean that they are more significant. Here's the next picture. The turtle versus the cheetah. Now, some of us, God just designed us to be a turtle. And if you try to keep up with the cheetah, you're going to burn out your little heart in 3 seconds. Just be the best dang turtle you can possibly be and keep moving forward. I mean, you're not going to be able to run as fast as the cheetah ever. And just appreciate the cheetah, but don't try to race the cheetah. Just be appreciative of who you are. But the key is just continue to move forward. The turtle is not inferior to the cheetah. Just different. If you move at turtle speed, you don't have to feel condemned. You just have to learn your limits because the turtle and the cheetah, they have different capacities. And you have to go at your own pace. And I feel like that's just a word for somebody here. That whatever you're going after, we're all going after growth. We're all going after upgrade. We're all going after improvement. But you got to go at it at your own pace. Look at this picture right here. That horse is, who knows who that is? That's Secretariat. Secretariat's won so many prizes, won so many races, and had a very impressive career. But what happened was that after Secretariat died, they found that the heart was 2.5 times the size of a normal horse's heart. No wonder he's such a winner. And no wonder the other horses couldn't keep up. Because he just had a different size heart. And here you are, if you're just a pony, and you're trying to keep up with Secretariat, and you feel like you have no value because you're not on the cover of those magazines, or people aren't talking about you, or you don't have a large fan base, you're comparing yourself with an anomaly. And I think Secretariat just needs to be the best he can be with what he's given. And for us, we just need to be the best that we can be. Be the best dang pony you can possibly be and just keep moving forward at your own pace. But you know what? It's the Secretariats of the world that get the accolades, that get the wealth and the fame. and that people look up to, people esteem, people celebrate, and people write articles about, people put on television. It's the secretariats of the world that people go to their conferences and want to learn from them. But again, if you're a pony and you go learn from secretariat and you're trying to keep up with secretariat, you're going to burn out your little heart. There was someone at the church who never sat in the sanctuary whenever I taught. And one Sunday, I had a friend of mine come who's more prominent and well-known. He's more of a secretariat than I am. And he came and he was ministering. And I noticed that guy who's never here when I'm teaching was actually sitting in the sanctuary. So I sent him a text saying, "Hey, you're actually sitting here. If you don't think I notice everything." I know what time you went to the bathroom. Not that much. But I texted him saying, "Hey, you're actually in the sanctuary." And he replied, "Yeah, there's a celebrity here." You know what? I may never be a secretariat, but I want to be the best Daniel I could possibly be. I may not be a superstar. I may not be a celebrity pastor, but I want to be who God made me to be. I want to go at my pace. I want to appreciate the influence God has given me, the people he has entrusted to me. And I don't need to compete with somebody else. And I just want to encourage you to, just because somebody is more prominent doesn't mean that they're more significant. Again, the Saint Bernard is not the only valuable dog. They're all special in their own ways. And I hope that we can just appreciate people for who they are and not just appreciate those who are famous. If we want to have longevity, we're going to have to go at a slower pace. To be a marathon runner, not a sprinter. Do you know what greed rhymes with? Greed rhymes with speed. I know speed is very impressive, but if we go at full speed, we're going to burn out. This is why God gave us the law of the Sabbath. He's saying that you push your accelerator and then you hit your brakes. Accelerator and brakes. Not just all accelerator, because some of us, our brake pads are brand new because we're just go, 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 go. But there's others of us here, you put your car into park, you slam the parking brake, and you've not pushed the accelerator in ages. And so some of us, we need to start accelerating more, and others of us, we need to start braking more. A friend of mine got me a book on the Enneagram for my birthday, and it gave me some tips that if you're a number 3, what you need to do is go on vacation and not take any work with you. And it's going to be torturous, but that's what you have to force yourself to do. You got to take a Sabbath. You got to hit the brakes. Because, we want to have consistency. And there's some speeds that just aren't sustainable. We want to be a good and faithful servant, not good and fast servant. Good and faithful. So we need to find a good pace. A buddy of mine, Jason from Journey of Faith, was saying that when you watch a marathon runner, you see that they're actually not running full speed. They can run a lot faster than that. And you may find their speed not very impressive, yet they know exactly what they're doing. They're running a marathon. And so again, speed is impressive, but we can flame out. We can burn out. And God didn't do that to us. We did that to ourselves. So what does greed rhyme with? Greed rhymes with speed. Yeah, thank you. Greed is doing too much, too soon, too fast, not knowing how to pace. Greed goes 100 miles an hour. Greed is keeping up with the cheetahs, keeping up with the secretariats, instead of just going at their own pace. Now, here's point number 3 about greed. How do you know that you've entered into greed territory? Greed is choosing growth over love. Greed is when you want something so bad that we're willing to cut corners. We will run over people. But as Christians, our code of ethics should be love. That we should do everything from love and nothing that ever violates love. And it is possible that in our drive, in our drivenness, and in our pursuit of growth, upgrades, and improvements, that we can be unloving and even make our families feel like they don't matter. They may say, oh, your goals matter, but we don't. But for those of us who are like that, I've learned that at the end of people's lives, they don't ask, can you play that one special presentation that was done about my life? Or can you bring me my accolades? Can you bring me my medals? Can you read me that front page of the New York Times that was written about me? Can you bring me, I just want to see my face on the cover of Time magazine one more time. No, they want their loved ones around them. They don't say, oh, hey, can you get my Ferrari and pull it up next to me? While I'm here in the nursing home, move that bed that's next to me. I want my Ferrari to be next to me as I'm going home. No, they want their loved ones around them at the end of their life. And I think if something really matters at the end of your life, it should matter all the days of your life. Can we get an amen? Now, I also want to clarify something. The scriptures also teach us not to be unequally yoked in 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14. So let's just say you're somebody who wants growth, you want improvement, you want progress, and you're tied up with people who just don't. And you're just frustrating each other. And somebody would say, oh, but to remove myself from them. If I'm the tan sister, to remove myself from the darker brother is unloving. And yet, I think both of y'all are frustrated. You see how difficult it would be for the tan sister to go forward here? Because the brother doesn't want to move. Imagine how frustrating that would be. The tan animal is exerting so much energy, making so little progress. And that is what happens when we are unequally yoked. Therefore, for those of you who may be in a dating relationship, if you're somebody who really wants to grow in your relationship with God and go after the things of God, and you're tied up with somebody who doesn't care at all, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, if I break up with him, if I break up with her, it's so unloving. Please break up with him and break up with her, because if you're together, you're both going to be so frustrated. Now, I know for those of you who are in marriages that look like this, it's just a little bit more complicated, isn't it? And so I think we should just be praying, Lord, wake him up. Lord, wake her up. Go like, go get her up, get him up. God, I've tried, and I can't seem to crack the code here. The more I feel like I'm trying to lead, the more stubborn he or she becomes. Oh, Lord, I don't know what to do. I'm exerting all my energy. I think we just need to pray and give it to God. But even in a company, let's just say you have somebody that is not motivated when everybody else is. And you think to yourself, you can't fire that person. You can't let that person go. Because that's not a very loving thing to do. I mean, we work for the church. Or we're all Christians. We don't fire people. Jesus wouldn't fire people. And yet, the one that doesn't want growth, that isn't after progress, the one that's always giving reasons and excuses of why things cannot improve, that person who is functioning as dead weight is burning out everybody else, making everything harder on everyone else. I think we should take the unmotivated individual and just let him or her get around other unmotivated individuals. And those who want to fly, let's fly together. Yeah. Yeah, what I appreciate about our worship team, and they seem to just be always going to new levels, is that everyone on their team, they want it. They're hungry for it. And then, they all want to get better. They all want to be more professional. They want to be more, lead us better, and always trying to improve everything. And they're here during the week and trying to figure out how to make things better. That's how they're able to fly. But if there's somebody who's on the team that's just totally unmotivated, they're better off just not being on the team, because you're just frustrating each other and you're weighing everybody else down. So here's my last point here. Man, run with those who are like-hearted. If you run with those who are like-hearted, you exert less energy and you make more progress. I think that was one of the reasons Jeremy and I wanted to link up. It was because we thought, hey, if we link up, we're both going after the same things. Maybe we can do more and it'll cost us less, because we don't want to burn out either. We want to hopefully be able to do this a longer time than just a few years. So get around those who have the same heart that you do, those who are going for growth, going for improvement, going for upgrades. Get around the right people. Have the right team around you. Do not be unequally yoked. And now I just want to wrap up this message with this point. Keep moving forward. Whether you're a Chihuahua or a St. Bernard, whether you're a turtle or a cheetah, whether you're a Labrador, a Cocker Spaniel, a Doberman Pinscher, whether you are a poodle, whatever you are, just keep moving forward. Keep moving forward with a heart of gratitude and in love. Amen? Come on, let's stand. I hope all of us here, we want to just see Jesus Center continue to go to the next level. And we can all run together as like-hearted people. Lord, I just come before you, Lord, and we ask you that you would restore unto us a heart of gratitude, to be thankful for what is, to appreciate who we are, not just who we're becoming. Lord, to treasure the journey, not just celebrate the destination. God, I pray for those who are in relationships where they're unequally yoked. I pray that you bring a realignment, that you bring a shifting. I pray, God, that you'd wake up those who need to be awakened. And yet, Lord, I also pray that you would connect us with the right people. I pray for all the companies that are here, Lord, that you give us wisdom to have the right team around us so that we can really fly and we can really move forward instead of being stuck and just burning out. Here our mission at Jesus Center is bringing hearts back to God. And if you're here today and you say, that's what I need in my life, Daniel, would you pray for me? That's what I want in my life. That's what I want today. I want my heart to really come back to God. If that's you, as our heads are bowed and as our eyes are closed, I just want to encourage you to raise your hand. I don't want to embarrass you. I just want to identify you. Anybody here, you say, I want my heart to come back to God. Yeah, God bless you there. I see your hand there. God bless you. I saw that. Lord, I pray that you'd revive or enrich, restore that connection with you. I know we're doing a series on money, God, but all you've ever wanted was our hearts. I pray that you would. I pray that you would. Let us be untangled from the things that don't matter. Let our hearts be knit to yours. Pray this in Jesus' name.